Beautiful people, it's Mitchell Jacob, your favorite candidate for United States Congress. We're going to get started here shortly with the January town hall for this congressional race. Kicking off the new year, wanted to have a virtual fireside coffee chat with you. So I've got my coffee ready, and we're going to take about 5 minutes before we get started. And I encourage you during this time, text someone, call someone. Reach out, let them know that we're about to have a live town hall together, bring more voices in, because whether you live in the southern Oklahoma or not, there are only 435 representatives of the United States federal government in the United States of America. So who holds any seat affects each and every one of us. So I encourage you, join this conversation. Let your voice, your will be heard. And let's have one together. While we're waiting that 5 minutes to get started so that people can join and join in the conversation, I'd just like to say that I hope that you and your family stay warm, stay safe over this snowstorm. I read today that approximately 100 million Americans are going to be hit directly by snow, and something like 200 million Americans are going to be affected by, I guess I'm not an expert here, but by frigid temperatures, I think is safe to say. As I was looking at the forecast for Oklahoma here, it says that once it goes below freezing tomorrow night, Friday, we're not expected to come above freezing temperatures for at least the next 10 days. That is a very long period of sub-freezing temperatures, especially for those of us in the South. So again, stay warm, stay safe. Put down some rock salt, make sure that your property is secure so you don't slip and hurt yourself. I just want you and your family to be safe and warm throughout this storm. Again, we're going to get started here in just a minute. I just want to give people time to join. So send a text message, make a phone call, ask more people to join in the conversation, share their thoughts, and let's have one together. I've got my coffee. I hope you've got yours. And I'm looking forward to answering your questions and talking about the topics and subjects that are most interesting and most important to you. Because I promise you, I could talk on and on ad nauseum and at length, and none of us will enjoy that very much. So I want to answer your questions. I want to talk to you directly. So let's have a conversation together. If you've already got questions, go ahead and start dropping them so that we can start compiling them. My team is here with me tonight to make sure that this goes as smoothly as possible. So we want to make sure we catch each and every question. So if there are already things you know that you want to talk about, then go ahead and drop it in there. What I'm going to start with tonight is Minnesota and some of the operations that are going on in our country and some of the things that I strongly disagree with there. So if you want to join in the conversation to talk about our immigration policy, to talk about what's going on in the Twin Cities. I understand we might have a new operation going on in a new state in our nation. So there's a lot to talk about here. I'm looking forward to talking about it with each and every one of you. I'll get started here in about 30 seconds. All right, you beautiful people. Thank you so much for your patience thus far. So for those of you whom I've never had a chance to meet, my name is Mitchell Jacob. I am your favorite candidate for United States Congress. I am seeking the Democratic nomination to represent Oklahoma's 4th congressional district. And that is currently a seat that is held by, but does not belong to, Tom Cole. And if you, like me, think that 23 years melting into the seat is plenty enough time, and that it's time for Tom Cole to retire, then go check something out really quickly, retiretom.com. That website is up and running. It's there for your viewing pleasure, and I strongly encourage you to take a look at it and see what we can do together to take back the power here in Oklahoma's 4th district, to exercise it in a constitutional way, a way that cares about the people, and a way that cares about the district, not just about keeping the salary, the position, the title, and doing whatever is necessary to ensure that there are no challengers to that seat. I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired, my friends, and I'm running this race because I cannot sit idly by. I swore an oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America. And that means that sometimes I have to put up with things that I strongly disagree with. But what I never will agree to is to stand idly by while the Constitution is shredded, is ripped apart, and while the meaning is pulled out of it. So, again, if you want to learn a little bit more about what you can do to help Tom Colt retire, go to retiretom.com. Take a look, and let's have another conversation after that. So this evening, I want to start with Minnesota and what's going on in one of the great states of the United States of America. And that's exactly the point I want to start with. Regardless of your opinion on our immigration policy, one thing that is simply true is that Minnesota is one of the 50 states of the United States. Minnesotans are Americans. The Constitution of the United States of America serves them just as much as it serves you or me. And yet we see this deployment, and it truly saddens me that that is the word that we're using, a deployment of Proud Boys, masked armed thugs to the streets of Minnesota to spread fear and terror. And just yesterday, we see reports that an ICE agent decided that not only it was a good idea, not only was it legal, but that it was the right thing to do to take a 5-year-old boy and to use him as bait to try to get his family, who, by the way, his family was here with legal authorization. This is blatant unconstitutional racism. This is using a fear to spread violence throughout our communities for the point of taking control. And it seems to me that with how often the president is talking about the Insurrection Act, thank you, that how often he's talking about the Insurrection Act, that all that he's looking for is for us to actually exercise our First Amendment right to protest so that he can roll in the tanks. And that terrifies me, my friends. Because we talk about, immigration is talked about as if there's some sort of crisis going on. And so let's look at the facts and the figures. What I notice as I look at deportations over the past 20 years, give or take, is that under the first year of the Obama administration deported far more people than the first year of this Trump administration. I also see the facts themselves show that under the Biden administration in that first year, he deported far more people than the Trump administration has in its first year in this second term. And yet, even with a $100 billion appropriation to ICE, even with masked men of terror patrolling and terrorizing the streets of the United States of America, and the building of massive detention centers. For those of you who aren't aware, they're building a 6th detention center right here in Oklahoma. It will be 26.8 acres. It will have 1,500 beds. Again, in the state of Oklahoma, we will now have 6 deportation facilities. So even with all of this happening across our country, this administration is still deporting far fewer people than either the Biden administration or the Obama administration. All that while we have a president who apparently, and I'm going to call things like they are from now on, is comfortable blatantly lying to your face. He says that there was an open border crisis under the Biden administration, but we know that that simply is not true because the Biden administration deported far more people than Trump could ever hope to deport. You cannot both have an open border and a rapid, aggressive deportation policy. It means that one of those things is not true. And the facts and the statistics show us how many people the Biden administration deported, which means that Trump is simply a liar. Kristi Noem is simply a liar. Kash Patel is a coward, and Pam Bondi is a liar. And I am sick and tired of a federal government whose entire policy seems to be predicated upon lying to you and me. Transparency and accountability. That is what I demand of this administration. And I personally don't believe that that is too much to ask, but apparently we have an administration that can't read the Constitution of the United States of America. I want the people in the United States of America to go through the process. That is a simple truth. I want more people to apply for their citizenship. I want more people to apply for residency. I want people to go through the proper channels. But when we appropriate $100 billion to ICE without hiring any new judges, without expanding facilities, without hiring staff or processing capacity, then the point is fear. The point is terror, and the point is control. Clearly, the point is not actually about immigration, because there was a bipartisan bill introduced in 2023 that would have solved a lot of the same exact border issues that Trump is still railing about today. And he killed that bill in the Senate. And by the way, our very own Senator Lankford was the Senate author of that bill. We know that it was bipartisan, but it was not. Trump approved. And so instead of fixing immigration, we are creating violence. We are politicizing it. We are using it to send a small private army of pardoned January 6th Proud Boys into the United States of America. We have cosplay wannabe Nazi Bovino on the streets of Minnesota throwing tear gas and leading agents to arrest peaceful protesters exercising their First American rights. And my friends, it is time that we reassert those rights. If you have not had a chance to protest, go protest. It's time to raise our voices. It's time to clamor. I would argue it's past time. My wife and I have been protesting for the last year. But while yesterday was the best time to start, today is the next best time. Raise your voice. Let your will be heard throughout the United States of America. Because I answered the call, swore an oath, and I enlisted in the United States of America. And I swore an oath to support and defend the United States Constitution from all enemies, foreign and domestic. That oath has no expiration date, at least not to me. And so when the administration chooses to unconstitutionally target Americans, that is why I'm running here today, my friends. I'm running because you deserve a representative who not only wants to represent you, but has taken the time to actually read the Constitution of the United States of America and who is ready and willing to reinforce it. The Constitution of the United States of America is the founding governing document of this country. It is not a set of guidelines. It is not a set of recommended parameters. It is the document. Your freedom of organization, which is protesting, your freedom of speech, religion, of the press, your freedom against unreasonable searches and seizures, to have warrants before these masked men enter your home. This all comes from the Constitution, and yet it's not being upheld. We have a Congress who is happy to take $180,000 per year as a salary, have the staff, the offices, and work all across this country. And yet we have that same Congress who seems, many of them, bent only on keeping their own power and their own seat, who want to keep getting the paycheck but not doing the work. And so what I pledge to you is very simple. I'm just here to do the work. I'm just here to serve the will of you, the people. Because I believe in this country. I believe in her promise. I believe in democracy. And I believe that when we all come together to work out our differences, that the world can be changed for the better. And I believe that when we break it down, you and I, we agree on a lot. In fact, we probably agree on most things. That the United States is an incredible country, that our children should get good jobs, that they should receive a quality education, that the food that we eat, the air we breathe, and the water we drink should be relatively clean, that we should have access to healthcare when we most need it, and that healthcare should not bankrupt us. These are not big asks, quite frankly. And yet we're still fighting about these same things because we have a Congress that will not do its job. So again, my name is Mitchell Jacob, your favorite candidate for United States Congress. I'm running to seeking the Democratic nomination for Oklahoma's 4th Congressional District. For you good folk in Oklahoma, we have a primary on June 16th of 2026 this year, and I am asking for your vote. If you live in Cleveland County, Pontotoc County, Love, Tillman, Jefferson, Garvin, Grady, McLean, part of Oklahoma, Carter, there are 14. I wasn't counting them on my fingers. Murray, Stevens, forgive me. I hope I caught everybody. But it's a big district. And there are a lot of people. And I look forward to getting to shake your hand and come to an event near you. I hope that you'll get involved. And if you are ready for Tom Cole to retire, then go check something out really quickly. retiretom.com. It'll lay out exactly what we can do and a new path forward that we can follow to have better representation in the United States Congress. Let me look and see what some of our questions are. Bear with me, my friends. All right. So I see. Hey, how about this, K-Rock? I will answer a question if you will be genuine, if you will put something real in here. Because at the end of the day, I think that you are just here to stir up trouble, and you can do that all you want. That is the beauty of the First Amendment. Welcome to this channel. Welcome to this town hall. I'm very glad that you're here. Now let's talk about immigration. Let's talk about the economy. Let's talk about the future and the security of what we are doing in this country right now. Blessings to you. Because unlike you, my friend, the worst thing I have to say for you is that I love you. I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad you've taken the time to join us this evening. And if you would like to continue to spread fear and hate, that is your First Amendment right to exercise. But I am so glad that each of you has joined me this evening because this is incredibly important. What is happening in Minnesota is an affront, quite frankly, to 250 years of decency. When I was a kid, throughout my time in school, I heard over and over and over again that we are the melting pot of the world. And I took that and I take that to heart. I love this country. We are made better by the many voices in this country, by the many countries represented, by the many languages spoken. That improves the quality that we receive here. We get exposure to cultures and to different places in the world, even in the streets of our own cities. And I am so thankful for that. If you're watching this, then all I can say is that I care about you. And I'm glad that you're here. I want what's best for you and your family. We may not agree on everything, and that is the beauty of democracy. But I know that we agree on many things, that the United States should continue to be a leader in the world, that we should continue to invest in the services that help good, hardworking Americans in the working class, because we're the ones who need it the most. That we should not continue to just cut taxes over and over and over for the billionaires without doing anything to invest in creating future opportunity and economic wealth for the masses. I know that we agree that our children should simply be able to read, write, and do basic arithmetic when they graduate from high school. And I know, like you, that I just want access to basic life-saving care. And I want that care to be quality care. And I want that care to not bankrupt us when we receive it. That's what I'm here to fight for on your behalf, my friends. I'm here to fight for a vision of the United States where, here, how about this? Medicare for all. Roll back the big, beautiful bill tax breaks and let's make the rich pay their fair share. How about we find a way to not gut Medicare and Medicaid programs? How about we eliminate the FICA cap so that we can reinstitute the solvency of the Social Security Trust Fund? There are so many little steps that we could take that would make massive differences for the good of the future of this incredible country. And that's what I'm here to talk about. A question that I have here is, what is the latest on the Affordable Care Act, and are there still some things that we can do? So the Affordable Care Act, specifically, it's the extension of the premium tax credits that expired on December 31st, January 1st, however you want to think of that. That is causing, as we know, anyone who's receiving an ACA plan or a marketplace plan, your premiums are doubling, tripling, perhaps even more in some states and in some locations. Well, the House of Representatives passed an extension for 3 years in what is called a clean bill, meaning it had nothing else in it. And that has not passed the Senate yet. So if you want an extension of those premium tax credits, my friends, then you need to call your senator. It has already passed the House. It is waiting to pass the Senate and to get more, to get supporters in the Senate, and then it can go to the president's desk. So if you want those premiums to come under control, write your senator, call them constantly, and we can make a difference together. All right, let's take a look. Trump said he was going to take Greenland, and he wasn't. What should we do if he changes his mind? So if you've, for those of us who have been watching the news recently, we've seen Greenland vaulted into the news. This patch of ice in the Arctic that sits between, basically between Canada and Great Britain. It's very north on the planet, very cold, and unlike its name, it is not green at all. And yet we have a president who is saying that through military force or sail, he's going to take Greenland. Well, for those of you who don't know, Greenland is a territory of the nation of Denmark. Denmark is a nation that belongs to the European Union. The European Union is part of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, otherwise known as NATO. This misguided is the word I will use, although there are probably far stronger words to use. This misguided push to take Greenland from Denmark at whatever cost is going to cause problems. On the one hand, it's already alienating many of our allies. We know that Denmark, France, Germany, Finland, Sweden, I'm sure others, I can't remember all of them offhand, are sending troops to Greenland to keep doing military rotations round the clock as a result of all of this that Trump is pushing regarding Greenland. We know that it's not for sale. They've told us unequivocally multiple times, and yet Trump is threatening over and over and over. And this is an ally of the United States of America. This is a treaty ally of the United States of America. And I don't understand why we would risk pitting ourselves against the European Union that has a larger economy, a larger population, and is very similarly equipped and advanced from a technological and military scale. What a silly choice, quite frankly. And so what do? We keep pressuring our elected officials. We keep pressuring those in the administration, the secretaries, to pressure Trump ultimately to stop this asinine plan to try to take an autonomous territory from one of our sovereign allies. The next question here. The question is, what is the main thing I would do different than Tom Cole? And I'll say it quite simply, my friends, I'll have a spine. Tom Cole has allowed himself to grow into the proverbial fat cat. He's now a multimillionaire as a result of his seat in Congress. Tom Cole is melting into that seat. He can't even stay awake through all of his committee meetings anymore. And he has been sitting in that seat for over 23 years. He has forgotten what it's like to represent the will of the people or to have to work a day in his life. And so the main thing that differentiates us is I'm here as a fighter who has fought on behalf of the United States of America in southern Syria, who has fought on behalf of the Constitution. I fight almost every single day as a public defender, defending the rights of individual Americans and ensuring that their constitutional protections are upheld and enforced. What you will get is someone who remembers what it is like to struggle, to need a little bit of help, and who remembers what it is like to simply be one of the people, hoping and praying for something better because the people in power are simply ignoring us every single day. And so, again, what I can give you is someone with a spine. We've got another one that just came in. Just hand it over. Stand by. That's an interesting question. Before I read the question, let's go back for a second. During his 2024 presidential campaign, Donald Trump promised over and over again to release the Epstein files. That was one of his major campaign platforms. The moment he got into office, however, he went silent. And then a couple months later, he totally changed his tune and refused to release those Epstein files. It came to a head during the government shutdown when Representative Grijalva out of Arizona, when Speaker Johnson refused to swear her into her seat that she was democratically elected to represent, because she would be the final deciding vote on what is called a discharge petition to force the Department of Justice to begin to release those records. Well, that happened. And there was a deadline that was set, which has passed, by the way. A deadline was set. It was 30 days after the discharge petition was signed, where the federal government must release the Epstein files. And the question is, should we put the DOJ, the Department of Justice, in contempt for not releasing the files? So there are two parts to this question. So on the one hand, the Department of Justice will argue that they've already released thousands of files. And that is probably, in a literal sense, true. But what is missing from the context of the question is that almost all of those files are redacted. And specifically, when you look at them, it's a piece of paper with a giant black box around and across all of it. Some of that was done very poorly, by the way, and you could still get the individual text. That's a whole separate question. It says a lot about those who are in these positions. But we can get to that in just a second. I see you there with your question. But the Department of Justice was ordered to release these files in full for the American people, and they have not done that. So yes, I do believe that Pam Bondi, and even more interestingly, it was either last week or the week before, I forget offhand, Pam Bondi in a congressional hearing, when she was asked who ordered those files to be redacted, she said, "I'm not telling you that." And she refused to answer. So yes, I do think it's time to put Pam Bondi and the Department of Justice in contempt until they comply with the law. Now, the question was something about why should we care when the Biden administration had it for 4 years? Well, I think that's a disingenuous question because Biden didn't campaign on the Epstein files. Donald Trump made it a platform of his to release the files, and that makes him a liar. He lied to the American people, and that's why I care, because he made it his platform. Biden did not. So Biden doesn't hold office. I'm not here to talk about Biden. And if you want to do that, then clearly You are only here to push what you want to see happen, and you're not recognizing the facts that are happening today, where the federal government is routinely and repeatedly lying to the American people and making that an entire stance of theirs. That's why we're here today. That's why I'm angry. It has nothing to do with Biden. This has to do with Donald Trump and the lies that he is telling every single day to the American people and to this country and world writ large. That is why this is an issue. So if you want to be disingenuous and talk about Biden, we can talk about how Biden deported far more people than the Trump administration and did it without mass men of terror out on the streets, spreading tear gas and forcing people to stay home because they're too afraid to leave their homes. That's what we're talking about today. My name is Mitchell Jacob. I'm running for Oklahoma's 4th congressional district to unseat Tom Cole, because I believe that it's time that the people of the United States of America have actual people who are one of us, earn less than $100,000 per year, do not come from a family of wealth, did not graduate from a private school. That's who needs to be representing the people of the United States of America, because I'm one of you. So yes, I'm your favorite candidate for United States Congress, seeking the Democratic nomination for Oklahoma's 4th. Good luck to you, Oozle Finch. Anyway, what is happening in Minnesota must stop. I'll say that quite frankly. It strikes me that Trump talks all the time about deportation. And yet we know that if it were about deportation, we would actually be deporting people. But instead, we're locking them up. It's about fear and terror and control. The United States Congress has the authority, power, and what I would say is the moral responsibility imparted to them by the United States Constitution to stop what is happening in Minnesota. And those, many of them, are cowards who refuse to wield the power that is given to them by the Constitution, that was given to them when the people of the United States of America voted them into office. The president does not have the right or the authority to ignore the Constitution, to override congressionally implemented laws. We have an immigration system that was passed by law. And it is on the president to take care that those laws are upheld. It is not on the president to pick and choose which ones he likes and to ignore all of the rest. It is time that Bovino, that Nazi wannabe, get out of Minnesota, quite frankly, get out of my federal government and crawl back into whatever hole he's from. These are the people of the United States of America. These are my countrymen, my friends, that this administration is targeting. Immigration officials have no right, authority, or power to lock up American citizens, and yet we know that it is happening. We know that warrantless entries are not only becoming commonplace, but they're becoming the standard operating procedure of this unconstitutional administration. And so if you're curious on my stance on ICE, I'll tell you quite simply, it's time to abolish ICE. Get rid of it. It is not serving the American people anymore. In fact, it is directly against the American people these days. And it is time that we get rid of that agency in its entirety and replace it with a new one that will uphold and respect the law and the Constitution. And so what I want to see is this administration actually make good on one of its promises. For example, if it's about deportation, then I can't help but be struck with a sense of bewilderment that we're building a new 26.8 acre, 1,500 bed deportation facility in Oklahoma City. And in case you didn't know, that makes it the 6th deportation facility that the Department of Homeland Security has built inside Oklahoma during the last year. And I can only imagine how rapidly they're going up across the rest of this country. If we want people to follow the laws as it relates to immigration, then the answer is quite simple. And it does not involve sending Proud Boys to cosplay on the streets of Minnesota. It does not involve cowards in masks patrolling and spreading that fear and terror across the streets of the United States of America. It takes the bipartisan bill that Republican Senator Lankford, for example, introduced in the Senate and that had a sponsor in the House to fix the immigration system to increase border security. The problem is that it takes 8 to 12 years to become a citizen and or resident of the United States of America. The problem is not that people do not want to follow the law. It's that we've created a system where following the law puts your life and your livelihood at risk. And I cannot imagine why people would not want to sit in a country that they're trying to flee for 8 to 12 years while the United States bureaucracy processes that, while people vilify them as if immigrants to this country somehow are the root cause of anything that we're experiencing in this country. The root cause of what we're experiencing is 100% American made. And before we can have a healing conversation, we must confront that fact. We have put ourselves into whatever situation we are in, and it is upon us to work together to get past it. What is happening in Minnesota is American made. Full stop. And we can resolve it. And it takes voting for people like your friend Mitchell Jacob for Oklahoma's 4th District, who will go and solve the problem. And I can promise you that. I swore an oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America when I enlisted in the Army. And I swore it again when I swore my oath of attorney. And they do not have an expiration date, my friends. And I will not, I refuse to sit idly by and let others violate the Constitution simply because, oh, it's not me. That is cowardice. And I am here to do the work regardless of how hard it is, regardless of the cost to myself, because all that I am is an American. And all that I care for is building the best country in the world. And we can do it with Medicare for all. We can do it by unrolling the big, beautiful bill tax breaks to billionaires, while at the same time gutting services that support the American people so that we could do it. $100 billion to ICE. Did you know that the state of Oklahoma has a $12.08 billion annual budget? What that means is that the $100 billion appropriation to ICE is the equivalent of 8 years of Oklahoma's budget, giving to an agency that is using that same budget to detain American citizens, that is using that budget to throw tear gas and smoke grenades on the streets of the United States of America, that are going door to door illegally and unconstitutionally, by the way, to round people up based upon skin color or accent, and who now apparently think that it is okay to use 5-year-old boys, children, small children. I have a 6-year-old at home, and this breaks my heart, who use a small child as bait to try to lure additional people out of a home. And now we have dead American citizens. And we have a whole group in the population of the United States of America who blame the person who was shot and killed instead of holding accountable the cowards in masks who committed that homicide. Because that's what it is, the taking of an American life. We have had 10 ICE officer-involved shootings into a moving motor vehicle over the past 5 months. And it is a direct violation of ICE protocol to fire into a moving vehicle. In fact, every single person in law enforcement that I've spoken to over the past few months has only one thing to say on that. You don't shoot into a moving vehicle unless your life is directly at risk. Cowards. I believe that it is time that we hold these individuals personally accountable for their actions. ICE does not get a blanket, kill anyone you want, do whatever you want. American taxpayers will foot the bill. It's time that that ends. They are personally responsible for their actions, and it's time that we start bringing these 1983 claims against these officers for their choices, because that's what it is. At the end of the day, they're choosing to be unconstitutional. They're choosing to violate the law. They're choosing to wage campaigns of fear, terror, and violence against Americans and American cities. And if you support that, if you support going after Americans who are just trying to live their lives, if you support spreading armed men across the streets of our country because I don't know why. It doesn't matter why. You need to reevaluate your life choices. Quite frankly, these are our American countrymen. These are the same people who are there when you need help the most. These are the same people whose taxes are going to support your Social Security. These are the same people who live and breathe this American life. And quite frankly, I love them. I am a patriot. I am here for my country. I'm proud of my country. I'm proud to be an American, and I am so excited to celebrate 250 years of American dominance in the world. But today I am ashamed of the actions of this federal government in so many ways, in so many places. All right, let's take a look. I am getting lots and lots of comments. So let's go over here first. All right. First thing I'll say is no, I don't have a script. I just care a lot about what we're doing here. So, for those of you whom I've not had the opportunity to meet, my name is Mitchell Jacob. I'm your favorite candidate for Oklahoma's 4th District, seeking the Democratic nomination to unseat Tom Cole. If you're not aware of who Tom Cole is, first thing I'll do is encourage you to go to retiretom.com. You can learn all about what we can do differently and how we can move forward to make change together. Beyond that, Tom Cole is currently the chairman of the House Appropriations Committee. He's been in Congress for 23 years. He is worth $5 million. He earns about $180,000 per year of your tax dollars. And he does not represent me. I'll say that quite simply. He voted against certifying the 2020 election results. He voted for the big billionaire bill, and he voted against the January 6th bipartisan committee. So I'm running to unseat Tom Cole because I believe that it's time that one of the people, someone like you and me, hold this seat again. And a little bit about me. I'm a 4th generation Okie. I was born in Tulsa, Oklahoma, but I moved around a lot. I'm one of 9 children, and my mother was mostly single throughout my childhood. I graduated high school in 2010. I went to college, but as an 18-year-old, I made the mistake of going to Tulane University, and it cost $56,000 per year in 2010. I was far too broke to be able to afford that, so I was a dropout. I restarted. First, I got a job selling mortgages back in 2012. This was HARP 2.0, right after the collapse, helping people refinance their underwater loan, get out of those high interest rates, etc. But it was purely commission-based. I realized I hate sales, which is ironic that I'm running for office. Here we are. And so I transitioned into banking, then became a stockbroker. Because my university refused to release my transcripts, I had to restart. And I went back to community college, and I now have 4 degrees. During that time, in 2017, I enlisted as a private in the United States Army. And I served for 5.5 years. I had some amazing experiences in the Army. I was a 35 Papa cryptologic linguist. And after I got out of the Army, I was blessed and lucky to be able to be accepted into OU Law, one of the flagship legal institutions of this region of our country. And today I work with that law degree. I'm a public defender, and I spend my days helping those who usually are having the worst day of their lives, who just need someone with a little bit of empathy and sympathy to help them out. And I help people through some of the most complex issues that they're facing. And today, I'm a candidate for United States Congress, running to represent Oklahoma's 4th and seeking your vote on June 16th. And once we secure that nomination together, then we'll go to the ballot on November 3rd for the 2026 midterm. Speaking of, I'm sitting in my headquarters right now, which is at 300 West Gray in Norman, Oklahoma, and I encourage you to get involved with the campaign. We are knocking doors every month. We are making phone calls every month. We're stuffing envelopes, and we are doing as much as we can to reach as many people as possible. Because in case you didn't know it, CD4 is 14 counties. It is just shy of 800,000 people, and I need your help to make this work. There are so many good people to meet, events to host, and in fact, I'll come to a living room near you. I'll come to you and to your family and meet your neighbors and your friends and your coworkers. You don't even have to come to me. But I host a virtual town hall each month, and I'm trying to host an in-person town hall each month, and I'm trying to travel around the district to do it because you deserve a representative who cares and listens to you. And in case you were curious, Tom Cole has not hosted a town hall in over 2 years. And if you want to go to an in-person event of his, he recently hosted one. It only costs $1,000 per person to get in. If that's the kind of representative that you want representing you, carry on. But if you're ready for change, then I'm ready to do the work. And so let's take a look. All right, let's ask some questions then. What kind of change? I believe that, how about this? I have 3 planks for my campaign. My first plank, quite frankly, I can't believe that we even have to campaign on this in 2026. That is strict adherence to the United States Constitution. I swore an oath twice to uphold the United States Constitution. And I believe in that oath. And I believe in every single part of that Constitution. First Amendment, Second Amendment. And I believe that we must enforce that we have an Article 1 Congress, an Article 2 Executive, and an Article 3 Judiciary. They have separated powers. And it is on the government to recognize that and to separate those powers. We have a Congress that refuses to check the power of an unconstitutional president. And that is one thing I want to change. Number 2 is our exploding federal debt. My friends, in 2017, when Donald Trump took office, and I don't blame him per se for it, I'm just using, it's a good reference point. January of 2017, so 9 years ago, the United States only owed $19.97 trillion. Today we owe $38 trillion. $38 trillion. That means that we borrowed $19 trillion in only 9 years. For a little bit of context, China's nominal GDP in 2025 was $19 trillion. That means that in 9 years, in just 9 years, we borrowed the entirety of China's annual GDP. And for what? Do you feel the results of $19 trillion added to our debt? Do you feel the result? It's not increasing our competitiveness in education. It's not increasing our competitiveness in the military. We're falling behind in every single category while outspending every other country in the world, while adding more debt than any other country in the world. It must change. And here's a little bit of context. According to the Treasury Department, we are currently hemorrhaging 1.2, that's a conservative estimate, $1.2 trillion annually on the federal debt. That means that we're spending just under $100 billion per month on just federal debt, on just the interest. That is not principal, and that is no other programs. We owe so much that debt is the second largest line item for the United States of America. And for context, the state of Oklahoma's annual budget is $12.08 billion per year. That means that 1 month's interest payment on just interest on the federal debt is the equivalent of 8 years of Oklahoma's budget. 1 month's interest payment would fund the state of Oklahoma for 8 years. That is your children and your grandchildren's future that we are hemorrhaging in debt every single month, my friends. And it is time that we get that under control. It is time that we get it under control. And my third plank is public education. I am a proud product of public schools. I am proud to. I still remember the two teachers who changed my life, Miss A and Miss C. You know what? Mrs. American Horse and Miss Clemens. They were incredible. Changed my whole life. Got me on a track that, well, here we are today. And I want more children to have teachers who receive a living wage and are able to afford the things in their life such that they choose and want to be in those schools and want to invest in the children and want to improve the quality of education. And I believe one thing, I do not support the dismantling of the Department of Education, but I do support giving more control to the states to decide what is best for that state when it comes to education. Because it strikes me that right now we have elected school boards. Often those children attend, their children attend those same schools, and they know what those communities need. And yet we have representatives in Washington, D.C. that are allocating the money as it goes out to these schools with very specific line items on how they can spend that money, whether it be on buses or technology or staff or books or whatever the case may be. And it comes to the schools pre-allocated. It's time to roll that back, because allocating for New York City and a school in Oklahoma on the same level makes no sense. Those are completely different places. They have different needs, and those children live very different lives. And it is time to restore the power back to the lowest level of government. And that is something that I support wholeheartedly, is restoring the ability of our elected officials to make the decisions that are best for that particular place. Stance on religion in public schools, a question I just got before it went away. I mean, we have a First Amendment. Every child has the right to exercise themselves, but it is also unconstitutional to force religion upon anyone specifically. I will read whatever comes through, so send what you want. I believe, so the question right there was stance on book bans. So I mean, I go back to, I believe in smaller government. It is on individual districts to decide what is best for those children. I don't believe that Congress or any particular state government should be making those choices. I believe in smaller government. And so if something is found to be inappropriate for a district, that's a question for that district. And I support smaller government. Let me rephrase that. I support governments making the choices for their constituents. And I want Washington, D.C. to get its hands out of how exactly your children are taught and what they are taught. I agree with that. Someone said that we should have both federal education standards and we should have state level standards. And I could not agree more. The No Child Left Behind, I think, was a terrible policy for so many reasons. That would be a very long conversation, and I did not prep to talk about that specifically. But what I will say is this: every district is different, and every state is different, and every region of the United States of America is different. For example, in Oklahoma, if you didn't know, we have an expansive, we call it a vocational technology program, just basically a community college, but for trades. It's extraordinary here. And every child has the right in high school to be able to attend a VOTEC as long as their GPA is high enough, they don't get in trouble, etc. But that is not the case in other states. So whenever we get those allocations of money to the state, because not every state has it, it doesn't work correctly, because we're trying to allocate money evenly across everything with the exact same parameters and rules, but every district is going to be different. And that is the beauty of this American democracy. We have 50 sovereign states, 7 semi-autonomous territories, and then a federal government that layers over all of it. And as I forgot who said the quote, forgive me, but democracy is an experiment. And we have 50 different laboratories going every single day. And I want to see us reinstate the power of those states to make the decisions that are best for their people, for their students, and for their region. I believe the question is about Israel. I believe that what is happening in Israel, I don't, that's not strong enough. I know that what is happening in Israel right now is genocide. I believe that every country, every sovereign nation has the right to defend itself. Full stop. When you start targeting schools and hospitals and apartment complexes and residential markets, however, you are not defending yourself. You are enacting targeted genocide, war crimes. And I believe that the United States is morally culpable for continuing to support the genocide in Gaza under the Biden administration and under the Trump administration. And it is time that the United States of America withhold all support to Israel until such time as Israel stops its genocidal campaign. It is time that we allow the Gazans to rebuild and to live their lives, and that they stop being the subjects of, I can't say it enough because I believe it to be true, a genocidal campaign against them as an entire people and sect and religion. What is happening is a travesty, and the United States continues to send money and arms and troops for assistance, and we must cut all of that off until Israel stops this campaign that it is waging right now. Free Palestine. I agree with that. Ooh, sorry, they're starting to roll in quickly. Yes, and that last question, because I see a bunch of people just joined. What is happening in Israel is in Gaza, excuse me. What is happening in Gaza is genocide. And for those of you who are joining, because I see it's going up and down, my name is Mitchell Jacob. I'm your favorite candidate for the United States Congress, running for Oklahoma's 4th District to unseat Tom Cole. I got to solve the puzzle so that we can stay together. Stand by. All right, and I'm running for United States Congress for Oklahoma's 4th District. And I'm running in southern Oklahoma. It's 14 counties, just shy of 800,000 people. And if you're ready to see something different, that is a government that actually upholds the Constitution, that respects the rule of law, that does not believe that violence and fear and terror against American citizens is what the people ask for, then vote. Vote, vote, vote. That's how you're going to fix this. Go protest, write your representative, write your senator, send everything you can to every secretary and let them know exactly what you think. Do I know what is happening to the Kurdish people in Syria, Iran, Iraq, and Turkey? What I know is that they were promised land a long time ago and that they have never received that grant of land, that they have been put into a situation where their brothers and sisters belong to a different country by virtue of where they were born and not by virtue of the people and religion and culture to which they belong, and that they have been separated from each other and that they have been forced into a mountainous region where many campaigns have been waged against them, and that they are doing everything that they can to simply survive in a world that is trying to eliminate their presence. I hope that is an answer. And I will answer that quite clearly. Abolish ICE. ICE has become, the definition of terrorism is using violence for political change. And it strikes me right now that immigration is a policy choice, and we are waging a campaign of violence and terror against Americans in the streets of Minnesota. And it must end. It must end now, because that is the exact same definition that we use for terrorism. And yet we are waging these campaigns on the streets of Americans against American citizens with American citizens. It infuriates me, and it makes me so incredibly sad at the same time. One, that people believe that the right thing to do is to go after Americans who are trying to live their lives and trying to simply live in the United States of America and go about work and shopping in the city that they live in. At the same time, they're being targeted. And we know that American citizens are being detained. It must end. It must end now. All right, let's see. We have a question here that came in separately. What is the biggest issue that is currently facing the United States of America? This is probably not going to be what most want to hear, but I truly believe it to be true. Because what is happening across our country today, tomorrow, or yesterday are big issues that we're facing. But I'm concerned about the future of our democracy. And I believe that the greatest threat that is currently facing our country is our exploding federal debt. In the past 9 years, the United States of America has borrowed $19 trillion. I'll say that again because it is a stunning amount. In the past 9 years, the United States of America has borrowed $9 trillion, my friends. In case you didn't know, according to the United States Treasury, net interest, which is the interest, not the principal we pay on debt, but just the interest. Net interest is now the second largest line item for the United States federal government's budget. We're hemorrhaging $1.2 trillion annually on our budget, on our interest, and that means that we're spending about $100 billion per month on just interest on just the federal debt. For a little bit of context, the state of Oklahoma's current budget for this fiscal year is $12.08 billion. That means that 1 month's interest payment on just federal interest is the equivalent of 8 years of the state of Oklahoma's operations at current funding levels. We are hemorrhaging your children and your grandchildren's future, education, Medicare for all. We're hemorrhaging tax breaks for the working and middle class at the expense of paying interest because we refuse to force the ultra wealthy, the billionaires, and the multi hundreds of millionaires to pay their fair share. The question, whether it's genuine or not, the question is, do I agree with Newsom policies? And the simple answer is I agree with some things that Trump wants, and I disagree with some things that Trump wants. I agree with some things that Gavin Newsom wants, and I disagree with some things that Gavin Newsom wants. I agreed with some things that Biden did, and I disagree with some things that Biden did. If you agree with 100% of what anybody says, then you are in a cult, quite simply. And I don't even agree with 100% of what my wife says, so there's no way that I can agree 100% with what Trump or Newsom or DeSantis or anyone says. And that is a simple truth. This is politics. This is not religion. And it is on us to ask questions, to come up with ideas and to push them out. And then it is upon us all to figure out how to move forward. We should never follow blindly after any person. And in fact, there's a Bible that talks about that and how we should put no idols before. Well, it seems like many idols are being created across this country right now. And for me, it is about policy, not party. It's about people, not politics itself. What I am here is to give you an alternative. What I am here is to push forward my ideas for a better United States of America. And it is on you to decide whether or not you agree with those, whether or not those represent you. I'm not asking you to agree with everything that I believe in. I'm asking you to consider it. But what is not the case is if you ever say, I agree 100% with what someone else did, specifically someone in power, then you have found yourself in a cult. Or you have not educated yourself because, again, I disagree with my wife on plenty of things, and yet we're still married and we can still live in the same home and go about our life and get along just fine, because that is the point. We must learn to compromise. We must learn to work together. And we have the single most ineffective Congress that we have seen in a very long time. I cannot say ever because we did have a civil war, and I am cognizant of that. But we have a wildly inefficient Congress that cannot do anything. And it is not because there are not good ideas. It is not because bills are not being filed. And it is not because people are not having conversations. Instead, it's because it's become all about party politics. My party said blank, or my party said blank. But that's not the way to govern. It's about the will of the people, because, my friends, there are no parties on your ballot. There are no parties on your ballot. There are only individual people who have stepped up to put their names on that ballot. And it is on you. It is your civic duty to evaluate their policies, their beliefs, their positions, and their choices, and then to make cast an informed vote. It is not, sorry, I just saw that. It is not on the people to simply fall in line with a party and to never think beyond what that party says. There are plenty of things that the Republican Party wants from its platform that I agree with. Smaller government, reducing taxes generally for the American people, protecting your Second Amendment right, enforcing the Constitution. We agree on so much. It's just how to apply some concepts where we will not align anymore. And in some things, we will flatly disagree with each other. And I encourage that. That is the sign of a healthy and good democracy. Because you know what is not the sign of a healthy and good democracy? Where everything that a president wants gets rubber stamped, nothing is pushed back on. And that is how you find yourself in fascism, dictatorship, authoritarianism, whatever form of government evolves as a result of that. And it requires people with a spine to stand up in Congress and say, no, that will not happen. No, that is unconstitutional. No, that is illegal. That is how we save our democracy. And all that I want is to see this incredible experiment called democracy continue across this country and across this world, because this democracy has created so much good. And I will say very clearly, plenty of bad has come from it, certainly. But we must look at what has come of it. We have the most advanced technology. That was pedantic. How about this? We have the most robust financial system that's ever been created. We invented things like penicillin that have saved countless lives. We have created the internet and the telephone and the smartphone and electricity that powers everything, clean water, clean food, clean air. And we have the ability to harness the power of the sun to fuel our cars. Imagine that. It's incredible, my friends. And all I want is to see this incredible system perpetuated, pushed forward. I want my children to grow up in it and my grandchildren someday to be born into it. And what I want to do is to keep holding true to that oath that I swore to support and defend the United States Constitution from all enemies, foreign and domestic, regardless of its cost, because this Constitution and democracy are incredible. They are worth saving. And I'm here to fight for them, and I'm here to fight for you. For those of you who are just now joining, my name is Mitchell Jacob, and I am running for the United States Congress for Oklahoma's 4th District, because I believe that we can have a United States where all are welcome, though all must comply with the law, where we have an immigration system that is able to process people rapidly and quickly and treats them with dignity and respect, quite frankly. I believe in a United States of America where you get access to quality health care and it does not bankrupt you in order to receive it. My friends, I have to begin winding down now. I've got kids at home and food on the table. But let me say this. I want to have a conversation with you. So I'm going to read my cell phone in just a second. And if you would like to communicate with me, give me a call, shoot me a text, send me an email. And if you think that it's time for Tom Cole to retire, then do me a favor. Go to retiretom.com. Retiretom.com. Check it out. There's a new path forward and a different way to govern. My cell phone number, my friends, is 405-407-6975. That was 405-407-6975. You can also reach me, Mitch at mitchelljacob.com. Go to my website, mitchelljacob.com. All of these social medias. I believe that a representative must be available to you, because otherwise, who are they running to represent? Thank you for joining tonight. It was an honor to be able to spend this time with you. I hope you'll give me a call or shoot me a text, and let's keep going.